And this time when it gives you the option, you may have to wait a little while for them to catch up.
There's no option.
Oh, really?
I have a 1 terabyte hard drive, so I can
Okay.
get it on YouTube.
Forgive me for interjecting.
6:59. Okay, I'm going to share this little video. And let's see, make sure sound is being shared. Yes. Share. Share. Full screen.
Oh, I like this one.
Yeah, this is sweet. Here we go.
Khabir!
So welcome to everybody who's here. We're going to start on time, and our brother Talat will open with the blessing, the opening invocation in English and in Turkish, and then we'll have a Fatiha and in Arabic and English.
Toward the one, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master. Doğru aşkın uyumun ve güzelliğin mükemmeli ustanen vücut bulmuş halini oturuntum eşkı yuharı bölümleşmiş olan tek rehberlik ruhu hu. Rozan Allah, Rozan Resulullah, Rozan Ehl-i Beyt. الفاتحة اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا صراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Amen. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, praise be to God, the cherisher and sustainer of the worlds, most gracious, most merciful, Master of the day of judgment. You alone we worship, and your aid we seek. Show us the straight way, the way of those upon whom you have bestowed your grace, those whose portion is not rage and who go not astray. Amen.
kudos. Thank you so much. There we go. So I just want to welcome everybody and kind of set the mood here. We want to just share wonderful stories about our Murshid and our life with him. And as I was thinking about that, I don't have a specific story to start off with. I have more of a how much Easter was a special event at Heart Song every year, and it was one of his favorite. We did universal worship, we had a potluck. So to me, this is kind of like that, the community gathering. We're celebrating kind of his Easter in a way, his resurrection in our hearts once again. I mean, always there, but just a special taking note of the beautiful life and the person he is and was and ever shall be. So I'll have maybe some more funny stories later or poignant stories of teachings, and I'm going to turn it over to Shakora maybe to start if she has a story. I know she's been thinking about it. So you're on my screen, Shakora. I don't know if you're on everyone else's.
I'm here on Talat's screen, I think.
Yeah, but you were spotlighted, but you're not spotlighted, but here you are on my screen. So
I don't need to be spotlighted. I just wanted to, before we get started tonight, a big part of this that Shamsuddin and I really wanted to focus on, besides our beloved Murshid, is that to get out of our comfort zone a little bit. And we have great writers and great storytellers. And we thought to introduce storytelling, we're going to have intermittent music so you can kind of relax or take a breath. And when you feel called, be time to say a story. Name's going to kind of run that, keep us on a track, no pressure, but it's not a jam fest, it's a storytelling session. So I will, because we're here with family, I will tell one short funny story first. And when I had the honor and pleasure to spend a lot of time day to day with Khabir, we were walking down the street one day in Eureka Springs, and it was sort of like Winnie the Pooh and Piglet. He said, Shakura, do you think everyone really thinks you're so much better at, managing organization and paying bills on time, and which I'm not? And I said, no, I think they all think I know how to do it. And he said, well, I think we better not tell them that you don't. They might not like this partnership. But anyway, that's just one of a zillion stories. But I just want people to feel like telling stories, and Shamsuddin's going to lead us, our great story writer and storyteller. And thank you everyone for coming. And here we go. You go, Shamsuddin.
well, yeah, technically, the way we kind of want to do that is Azim has volunteered to add that musical interlude. So then if you have a story bubble up, raise your hand. I've got you all on screen share, and I'll be scanning, and maybe I'll highlight you so you're up next.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're not playing for the long term. They're playing to get us talking, It's about the talking, right?
All right.
Well, actually, we've got Hassan on the little schedule there to play, but not to put him on the spot. Maybe we'll do this "Come, whoever you are" a little bit together, just a few times, and bring Murshid in. He's so accessible, seems like, and I was thinking of all the different ways to honor Murshid and all the arts, and I was like, these are all paths to God. These are all paths to my most inner heart. Whether it was looking at fine art or being in nature or listening to music or silence, I was like, wow, all right, what a legacy. So here we go.
Okay.
Come wherever you are, even though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come again. Ya Allah, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. Ya broken your vows 1,000 times. Come again. Wherever you are, even though you've broken your vows 1,000 times. Come again. Ya Allah, la ilaha illallah, ya Mevlana Rulallah, ya
Take it, Zine. Ya Khabir.
Ya Khabir. So with that, I would not quite sure how to open up, but maybe if Jeannie Kuntz would allow me to call on her to just share a little something.
I can do that. Can you hear me? Okay. Well, I don't know if you can see here behind me, but I have Rumi, and then I have this wonderful stream that Kabir drew with his egg tempera. And the song that comes to my mind when I think about Kabir is what we ended up calling the bounce song. Iri Natzarat. But anyway, today I was thinking about different experiences that I had with Kabir over the years. And this fall scene came into mind at Quiver River. And we were sitting outside a building. I don't even remember what the building was, but we were in our camp chairs. And Diana Dinman and the women were belly dancing all around us. You know, this wonderful energy was just kind of coming around and flirting a little bit and then going away. And the two of us were sitting there, and we looked at each other. We said, "Do we feel like we're the mom and pop watching the kids at play?" And we just held hands and we just watched everybody for about another 20 minutes. It was just like just the sweetest moment, you know, just not saying anything to each other, but just being so present and just just so loving and so full. The moment was so full. But yeah, Khabir was so special. He brought so much to the table, and he was always just he just took the kind of the angst out of things. You know, I can get pretty wound up about stuff, and he had just like, you know, well, it's just the way it is. And they would just like, ah, all right, yeah, okay, it is just that way, isn't it? So you just kind of so many lessons. But if we could sing a song together, would you like to play, Azim?
Well, what do you have in mind, dear?
Well, I was thinking the Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Keep going.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allah, 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 Allah.
Bounce, bounce,
Allah, 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 Allah.
bounce, bounce,
Allah, 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 Allah.
bounce, bounce,
Allah, 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 Allah.
bounce, bounce.
Who Allah, who Allah, who Allah, Allah, Allah. Who Allah, who Allah, who Allah, Allah, Allah. Idina Zerat al-Mustaqim.
Bounce, bounce.
Idina Zerat al-Mustaqim. Idina Zerat al-Mustaqim. Idina Zerat al-Mustaqim. Allah, 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 Allah. Allah, 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 Allah. Allah, 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 Allah. Allah, 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 Allah. Who Allah, who Allah, who Allah, Allah, Allah. Who Allah, who Allah, who Allah, Allah, Allah.
Thank you, Karima.
Pass it on.
Yeah, Khabir.
So listen, you know, we have that hand button. If you click that, I will definitely see it and I will highlight you, and then you can have the screen and have the mic.
What hand button?
The one that Hamid Jim Broomfield just clicked on. The one.
Well, how do I do it? I've never done it before.
It's under reactions.
Reaction? Where's that at?
Well, it's on the bottom of my screen if you're on a regular computer.
How do I get to it?
You moved your mouse.
Hover over the bottom, Hassan.
Hover over
Hover
the
over the bottom of
bottom.
the screen.
Oh, right next to the screen, the green screen sheet. No, that's not it. Oh, there it is. I see it now. Thank you, Shams. Thank you, Talat.
You're welcome,
I know how to do
Hassan.
it. Some people may not.
Am I on?
Okay, you're on.
All right. Thank you, Shams. It's so good to be here with my Heart Song family
Oh, oh.
in this, yes, oh, in this gathering of remembrance, and see all the familiar faces that I've missed seeing. I want to just a bit about how the relationship between Khabir and I. Of course, he initiated me, and he was like a distant father. Here I am in the southeast Kansas, and he was way down in Heart Song, and I'd see him maybe when I was a frequent traveler there. I might see him once or twice or maybe 3 times a year if I was in Kansas City. And we never really had a personal relationship per se, but always felt a deep connection. And unlike my father of origin, he was very kind and a very generous man. He showed me that kindness and my generosity. I remember once I visited Heart Song, and I've forgotten the circumstances, but I either got there late or got there without any equipment or whatever. But anyway, I was in need, and I let him know. And I haven't been there in a while, so I don't know the layout, but there was one or two cabins, and he had access to them. So he opened it up and said, "Here, you can use this, make yourself comfortable." And that really means a lot to me, and the memory of him. I would like to think that we're still connected on that level. Thank you, Shams.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I just want to piggyback on that for a second, because I had the privilege there of living with him, and I want to tell you about his practices just a little bit. You know, the last 2 years at least, he went through, when he was doing his practices, he would bring up every one of you who are, if you are a Murid, and some of you who are not Murids, like Marty, and he would bring everyone up in his breath practice. He would give you a breath, and on the out breath, he would send you a blessing. And I know that's true because we talked about it. And the other thing about his practices that so impressed me was he spent more time reading in the hot tub, which he didn't consider part of his practices, but it obviously was, because he wasn't reading fiction. And but then he would come up into the upstairs special room for prayer. And you know, sometimes his practices would last 15 minutes, and sometimes his practices would be like maybe 5 minutes, because I'd be cooking breakfast and he yelled down and go, I'll be ready and whatever. I came to realize from discussions we had that his main intention in practices, and this has helped me so much, was to just get to a point that Marty would describe as shared presence. Once he felt he was connected to spirit, he was ready for his day, and he could end his practices. You'd hear a little bell, ding. The incense would keep burning because it went all through the house, and then he'd come down for breakfast or do whatever his next thing was to do. So I just wanted to share that. I'm looking for other people who want to share.
I would like to add on about the practices and the welcoming, the pure generosity of heart and laughter. I mean, he never lost his childlike sense, you know. But when he was living with me for a period of time, it was very difficult. He had some trouble with his legs and circulation, and we did dressing changes every day, and everything was painful. And, you know, he was always so dignified and humble. But even in the most difficult times, he did those practices every day. And for those of us who have sat with him at Sufi camp for early morning practices, that he's taught us all his basic outline of practices. He never stopped doing any of those, even when it caused him great physical pain. It was like he just went through them, you know. It was a beautiful thing, and his practices were an inspiration.
Yeah, thank you. That's so true.
Natana Tari raises her hand, Shamsuddin.
Hi, he came to Fort Worth and Dallas a lot, and Mubarak really organized that more than I did, but I helped him. We just really got to spend a lot of time with him. at Johnny's Ranch, and it was just it was, for us, it was like a bringing together of the community. He always came here. It's like I'd be a slacker as far as, leading stuff, and he came in, and it was like everybody showed up and from around, and people that didn't always show up, because it's a conglomerate here. We're in this city that's like multiple cities, and people don't want to go from one place to the other, and it's a real kind of scattered, but a lot of people gathered. And one of the last times I saw him, I kept asking him, I'm like, will you please get some audio recordings of yourself? Because I really, really want to be able to hear those after, because I knew he was, it was getting close. I mean, you could tell he had explained to me that he'd gone camping, and something, he and Mubarak had gone somewhere, and he'd had a lot of trouble sleeping, I think, or something. And anyway, you could tell, if you were sensitive, it was he was getting to a pretty frail space. And so I was like asking him to record himself. But anyway, because I really, I searched online, and I haven't found much audio of him. But anyway, let me get to the point, that something that I really, really love of his, the practice, getting to the practices. And he said, well, this is in my book. I said, well, I want you to record this because I want to hear you say it. And I love your voice. And he's such, like everybody here said, he was such a calming presence. I'm a high energy, kind of intense person. And there were a couple of times where he kind of side-eyed me, because I was, I'm just like that. But but anyway, what I'm trying to say is this one practice he did where he was like, visualize the person, like if you're in your house, visualize the person who lives in front of you, the behind you, to the side, and then going out and out and out into the community with people you don't even really know, but you just see a little bit here and there. And he was talking about connecting with people at this higher level. It's like, this lady that lives across the street from me, she really frowns at me all the time. I mean, I'm just like, I've lived here 12 years. And I mean, there's been very few words, except for frowns, because I don't do this or I don't do that. But anyway, so connecting with her at a high level is easy, because it's like you go past the angst and the bullshit. You know what I mean? It's like you just connect. And I'm still searching for the book that he said that he wrote and that exercise is in, because I mean, I've shared it in my own way a few times with people, and people resonate with it, and them people that were at that workshop remember it. And it's just that whole connection of being with people on a higher level that's so much easier, and just so much blow away the stuff, the basic stuff, and get to the ray. It kind of reminds me of the Hazrat Inayat Khan saying, we're all raised from the same, the same center. And it's almost like I've kind of visualized it like that, like we're all raised. And it's just a really powerful practice for me. So, I mean, I really appreciate y'all doing this. And if anybody knows about the book, will you please tell me? Thank you.
Let me share with you about the book.
I can share about the book.
Okay, you go ahead.
Okay, I'll start. You can finish. First, I want to say, Nirtana, you're also one of the absolute troopers of coming to Heart Song, rain, snow, sunshine, But the book has been really interesting, because he's going to write this book. He does these plans, and we've been kind of, Shamsuddin and I especially, have been kind of living around pretty intently for the last, the last 5 years of his life. And we have another friend, Melissa Clare, who's of the Sufi order. And Khabir spent his last years preaching and teaching at her center, which is a lot like Heart Song. It's for all faiths. It's really quite beautiful. And this woman who's, not too bossy, but she followed him around and had this little tape recorder, and we each got charged with it sometimes, but he never wanted to record his voice because he didn't ever want us to memorize anything. What you described, being impacted by his practice, that all of us around him have experienced, that is for us to take those things and make them your own and teach them to people in that way with the energy that, and I mean, Shamsuddin will say, we have stuff, and I have access to some recordings, and when we get that ready, you can definitely, we'll have some clips of his voice. But the biggest lesson he really wanted us was to be able to stand on our 2 feet, and we didn't have to mimic or parrot. We just needed to give back what we got from it in a way that we can feel it and give it to someone else. And it's exactly what you just described. So Shamsuddin, not to put too much pressure on him, he's kind of been, he's the carrier of that project now with the book, and we're putting stories together and doing things like that. And eventually there will be a book, but the book was to motivate us, I think. And the book is ours to give from our heart and what we've learned from him. And you summed it up so beautifully. But there will be a book, right, Shamsuddin?
Well, there will be a book. There's a book that I'm working on right now that has 25 chapters. They're short. They're going to get expanded, but about living with him. But the book he wanted to write was a book about his art, and bringing his and explaining to people how his Sufi practices enlightened his art. And he wanted to show them how, he wanted to talk about how he had to take panels that were nothing, just pieces of wood, and then you put rabbit skin glue down on them, and then you put marble dust, and then you have to sand it, and you have to do it 5 different times. He wanted to talk about that in a spiritual context. So Shams and Shakura and I and a few other folks are going to try to say what he would have said in that book too. That would be that's a whole separate little project. So you'll get an announcement for sure. All right, who else would like to go? I mean, I know everybody would, but who wants to go next? Looking for hands. Maybe it's time, Azim, for a little interlude music.
Well, in addition to the practices, he loved the prayers of an icon, and he especially loved hearing Talat sing prayer psalm. So we have that on the schedule at this point. And we would follow that with just a little bit of silence, and then invite some stories. And just seeing that right there, maybe Craig, his last initiate him your read, maybe Craig might start us off, or think about that while this next piece while Talat plays for us.
Praise be to thee, most supreme God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-pervading, the only being. Take us in thy parental arms, raise us from the denseness of the earth. Thy beauty do we worship, to thee do we give willing surrender. Most merciful and compassionate God, the idealized Lord of the whole humanity. thee alone we aspire. Open our hearts toward thy beauty. Illuminate our souls with divine light. O thou the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty. All powerful creator, sustainer, judge, and forgiver of our shortcomings. Lord God of the east and of the west, and of the worlds above and below, and of the seen and unseen beings. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls. Use us for the purpose that thy wisdom chooseth, and guide us on the path of thine own goodness. Draw us closer to thee every moment of our life, until in us be reflected thy grace, thy glory, thy wisdom, thy joy, and thy peace. Amen.
Thank you, Talat. Thank you. So just a minute or two of silence here, and if you want to get on the list, go ahead and click that little hand sign there, and Shamsdeen will get us rolling into some more story time. Gotta answer this student.
Oh, where's the hand? Where do you find that hand?
Ah,
You
can
all,
everybody hear me? Can
we,
everybody hear me?
yep.
Yeah. Okay, very good. I don't really know where to start with Khabir, just all the many different memories that I have of him. I think we had a I think probably a unique relationship where, two fellow Sufi teachers, quote unquote. He really took me under his wing, and we spent hours talking about Sufi practices, working with murids and all kinds of things. He invited me to Turkey twice, which was really precious because we really just spent most of our time together there. And I ended up being the Zikr leader for both of those trips, which was really precious. And on the second one, which Malika was there, we were at the Dargah of Haji Bektash Veli, and that was a really deep experience. I know Malika had a really cosmic experience, and I had one where my heart just broke wide open. It was a big pool of tears at that one. At camp, we were together a lot. I mean, I went to all of his morning meditations as long as I went to camp. And but by the way, I do have some recordings of those. If anybody's interested, it would take me a while to dig them up. But the last few years, I recorded those morning meditations. And then I would go to all his classes, and quite frequently he would just, out of total graciousness, he would turn to me and say, "Well, Zahir, what do you think? Or what do you have to say? And so he would just let me speak, and from my own heart. And boy, I really loved him. He was, really precious. And I remember when he had his last birthday party there down in Eureka Springs, and he didn't know I was coming. I didn't tell him. I know I talked with Shakura about that. So I just showed up, and when the minute he saw me, he just melted. He came over. He goes, "Oh, I just, you were the one person I really wanted to come." And I said, "Well, I wouldn't miss this at all." So I don't know. He's ever living within me. I mean, I have a lot of Khabir in me, from just a precious, precious human being. So I think that's probably enough for that. I do have a very, very long story about him, but this is probably not the right forum. But it took 2 trips to Turkey to reach that zenith. So, but I'll skip that one for now. So, anyway, thank you very much. So,
Thank you.
Malika.
Well, it's pretty good for me to be coming after Brother Zahir, because, we shared those Turkey trips. I was thinking, where to begin also. We live, up here in Kansas. I only made it down to Hartsong really one time. I did make it down there once for the Cave Zikr when the Cave Zikr was still happening. And I'm so glad that I at least made it once. So I saw, the community there and what happened there and the land and everything and the miraculous Cave Zikr. That was amazing. And then he did come one time towards the end of his life to Lawrence and did a retreat for us here, and that was nice. And then an event in Kansas City. Mostly, I saw him at in this area. I would see him at Rumi Zers every year, and we would usually, Clark and I would stay in the same house where he would stay at God's house. So of course there was a lot of joy in that, and a lot of really intimate and wonderful time with him. And then there was in the green room, where all the dervishes were getting ready, and we were like struggling into our teneres and everything, and um, bunching them up and the tying and everything that goes on, like out of sight. And we come out all beautiful and everything, but back in the green room, it's a different story. So, I have really a lot of great memories around all of that. And yes, he was our guiding light, and he was such just the epitome of the Turkish, you know, um, Simizin Bashi, back there. I mean, he was so Turkish, and he just looked and embodied that that role and guided us all on that path for all those years. It was really, we really miss him so much. Um, and then of course there there were the Turkey journeys. I went twice to Turkey. Clark was with me once, and just to see him in Turkey is a whole other side of him. He just came, alive in a new way in Turkey. He just loved it there. He must have been, he must have lived there in a former life or something. There was really a deep attunement. He loved being there. He loved sharing it. He loved introducing everyone to the Turkish delight and the pide and the ayran, and all of the places and the foods and the neighborhoods. And I remember him sitting on the balcony of the place we were staying in Cappadocia and painting. And that he of course was always loving to paint, and he loved Antalya and painting down there on the coast. And of course Konya was so wonderful. He had the dear friend in Konya, and we went all over and saw the sights. And we were there at the time, one year at the time of the tulip festival, and there were tulips just blooming everywhere, because of course the tulip originated in Turkey. The Netherlands gets the credit in the West, but tulips came from Turkey, and they're very proud of that. And we just had such wonderful times there. And it was a great trip when Zahir and Clark, with the drums and the guitar, and we would have some great zikrs. I remember one time we were in like just a little cafe there in the center of Gurame, I think it was, maybe.
Oh, in Cappadocia.
In Cappadocia. Is
Mhm.
that right, Zahir? And I have a video. I got a video of that. And we're just like kind of playing and singing there, you know, and
Mhm.
Khabir is in that frame, and just wonderful, wonderful times. What a gift. Oh, I just feel so blessed that he brought us there with him and introduced us to that. And then we do have a story I could tell that happened in India, actually. We went the first year when it was at 2007, I think it was, when the Rouhaniyat was doing the Urs, and Shabda took a group over there, and we were staying in the La Sagrita, I think it was, that little guest house we were staying.
Mhm.
But there was a place where we would all go to shop, the local sort of mall, you might say, but of course it was very different. It's India Khan Market, it was
Mhm.
called. And so we would often take a tuk-tuk over to Khan Market to get something. And one morning, as Clark and I were getting ready to head over to Khan Market, we just happened to encounter Khabir coming back in, and he was lamenting that he had gotten a wonderful book about Nizamuddin Aulia that he had really wanted, and then he'd gone and left it on the tuk-tuk. And so he was just lamenting that fact. And we just happened to cross paths and just heard that little story from him as we were heading out. And I don't know if he did the lost object zikr for that book. You know, he was, he would do that. He might have, I wouldn't doubt it. But as Clark and I were leaving, we got on this like really like kind of ratty old tuk-tuk. And we noticed that the driver was talking to these other drivers, like he kept talking to them and they were talking, and he didn't speak any English. It was all Hindi. And then as we were getting close to the place, he showed us it was Khabir's bag with his book. And he was very concerned that we understand him. And we might not have understood him, but we had happened to hear Khabir's story. And so we knew, like, the minute we saw it, we were like, oh, Khabir's book.
Mhm.
Yes, yes, good, we know, yes. But he still didn't quite trust that we gave him a good, tip and everything. But when we got there, he had to talk to the kind of the door person there at the guest house just to make sure, like we would really get it back to Khabir. And we brought it back in, and here's your book, and that was great. So, and he enjoyed, I know, telling that story
Mhm.
from time to time when the classes would be, his group would be sitting together at camp. So wanted to revisit that one. Thank you. Thanks for doing this. This is so wonderful.
Hey, Malika, thank you.
Can I share one story really quickly? This is one with Malika and me.
Yes, yeah, go
On a
ahead.
previous trip, Khabir had been initiated into the Bektashi order by this young Bektashi sheikh, and we were out in the courtyard of this Sufi center, and so the sheikh put the hat on top of Khabir's head, and then he told him, he said, next time you come to Turkey, make sure you go to Haji Bektash's grave and say a prayer there, So I don't know, 1 or 2 years later, maybe 3 years later, I don't remember exactly. We go on that trip, and we get to Haji Bektash Veli's grave, the little village, and we go into the Dargah, and Malika's there, and so I walk in, and Khabir is standing at the foot of the grave, and he's got the hat on the Dargah itself, and he's saying his prayers. I know Malika took a picture of it because I've seen it. And then Khabir leaves, I left, and then Khabir left, and then you were like, the guard there gave you a scarf right off of the Dargah, and I remember coming back into the room, and you were kind of just floated about 3 feet off the ground, and then I went in, and my heart just burst open at that gathering. But that's all because of Khabir. Khabir, established that, and that great meeting with Haji Bektash Veli that I had at that moment, like Malika had at that moment as well. So, he has such a powerful influence on so many of us, the really profound, deep spiritual relationships that we had with him and through him. So
Thank you, Zahir. And man, I'm feeling Kabir's presence. So, wow. Anyway, yeah, that episode that you have a video of, I think, Zahir could tell that story too, but Kabir did a painting of that, I think, of the man in the station or whatever that was. But anyway, I'm not going to stop this meeting. It can go on forever. People could end whenever they want to, but or can leave when they want to. So we're going to move on to Craig and Sky, Jamil and Basira. And I want to explain this new technique I've discovered. If you've been raising your hand while someone else is talking, I can bring you up next to them, and that way you have some time to know, oh, I'm next. So don't unmute until the other people are done. Okay, that's all I wanted to say.
I just want to give my thanks and praise to Kabir because, yes, he was so welcoming to us to get us to come to Heart Song and everything. But I was a newbie and really didn't even know what was going on. But I knew I wanted to know more. And that's why I asked to be an initiate. But I'm thankful now because I think back about when I first did Zikr and I didn't know what I was doing. I'd work really hard at the little store, and both Kabir and Shamsuddin would come by and invite us, and we'd be so tired, but we'd go after working, really long hours. And I just remember not really understanding anything, but as I became an initiate and I started asking more questions, I began to educate myself. And now, oddly enough, it's helped me with the current job that I have that hadn't been created yet. And I'm being able to connect with people from all over the world with these different backgrounds. Like yesterday, I taught about Ramadan and Passover. And it's just amazing how he's still working with me every day. And I've been positioning to do this, and I had no idea to be able to connect with people. And I met so many people from Turkey, and I know so many of their philosophies. And it's just been a wonderful opportunity to connect. And I love to show his art and share with my students. They love him. And I do too. And I love all of you. And thank you for having this, this wonderful meeting. It's so awesome. So you want to talk about your
what comes to mind is like Kabir at his birthday party and how full of life and hope and dreams. He was still ready to paint more paintings and go to Turkey, and he was just ready to just full on do everything that he's ever done. And it was there at his birthday party that I was talking to Raven Wolf, and we were standing there at at the doorway, and Kabir was surrounded with people, and I was thinking, that it'd be hard to talk to him right now. But like I was talking to Raven Wolf, and I was thinking about asking Kabir to initiate me, and he says, well, there he is, do it, like, and I said, well, sometimes I just need a little push, and he just like shoved me, and I was like right in Kabir's face, and I was like, it was like shock, probably him and me. And it was funny, and I felt like a teenager, like asking my teacher to initiate me, and it was really humbling, and it amazed me. He says, of course, and he goes, right over there, and like he just pointed over to this spot. He looked over there, and he says, let's go over there. And like I was thinking he was going to be like, a week or two or whatever, and I didn't know really when or how or what, but he was just like right in the moment, and and we went over there, and it was just the sweetest thing. And then it was like, so it was really amazing. It felt like he was like, felt some sort of fulfillment in that, like, okay, my job, my work here is done. And it was like 2 weeks later, and Khabir, I guess he went and got another radiation treatment, and it was devastating to him. And I went over there, and like, he was sitting in a chair, and he couldn't talk hardly anymore. Like, we'd gone there the day before or something, and he was still able to walk, but now he couldn't actually talk anymore, and he could just nod his head. And I said, "Do you want me to call the doctor?" And he shook his head. "No." Do you want to go to the hospital? And he goes, "No." I says, "Do you want to have a puff?" And he goes, and so me and Khabir had the last puff of his life together. I always felt really honored in that. And always Khabir. And when we would do that sacrament, he would always say, and we bless it like this, and Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, heaven and earth and the four directions, Amen. And I feel like Khabir gave us that. So like, whenever we kind of invoke Khabir, like, it seems like he comes whenever you say that. It's really weird. And it's trip. And also he came kind of like the sky in like a bird, like a cardinal, and right outside the window, and he was talking to her through that bird, and I can do this now. And ever since then, man, we just see cardinals at the most magical times. And like, they'll show up. The other night I was talking to Shams Jr. on the phone, and this cardinal came up and just was singing so loud in the phone, I could hear it. And I said, "Is that a cardinal?" And he goes, "It is." And I said, "My God, that's Khabir." And I said, it was so loud. It was just like, oh, wow, he's really singing out. It was a trip. But Khabir always would tell me, like, if I was going off on the world's problems, or like this and that going on in the world, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I just kind of like, I see these, things, they come and they go, but there's always the one is always there. Allah is always there, and it's always perfect, and there's really nothing to worry about." And so I always think about that when I think about Khabir. He was such an incredible person. Can't hardly say all the good things that he was, but he was amazing. I was really honored and blessed to know him.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say that Heart Song has produced its first newsletter, which is coming out today. I don't know why I haven't seen it, but there is a link in there to see Craig getting initiated at Khabir's birthday party. So that's kind of fun. All right, so we're going to turn to Habiba Cindy from Arkansas. Thank you.
Hi, beloveds. I'm so heart-warmed and honored to be with you all here tonight. And as I'm looking at all of your faces and listening, I'm so aware that there was something that is common among all of us. With Khabir, he brought us together. He brought us all here in his own way, and we each have our unique story, but it's the big story, but we all have our beautiful history with Khabir, and he's still here. So I was driving home from the college, from the job that Khabir got me in 2004. And today we had I'm emotional because it's so beautiful and you can put your prayers on it. He made a beautiful courtyard at the college. Some of you had seen it. It had azaleas that were as tall as me, a peeled the kind of birch tree that peels its bark, and it got really big, and a big maple. And it was so beautiful. And then they went under the college and they caused a lot of problems. So the whole courtyard, doom, taken away right when he died, down to nothing. I was trying to save azalea plants, but now it's gravel and they've got the drainage in place, and it's the new studio. It's like a trapezoid, it fits in. So where we took the garden out is going to be like, I just feel him as we're designing it, and I'm saying we have to have this or that. He's here. But anyway, that's enough on that. I won't go on and on. There's so many stories with Khabir, and he's just blessed us all. And I think about what Malika was saying, that, the green room and all the ways that he was like the gentle hand, to get that turn started and keep us all together. I feel like he's everywhere and he's with us, and the only message is love, really. And all that, what unites us. So I thought what to close, I'll just say that wonderful line that I say a lot, which is right before we would go to turn, he would say, like, ritual to the mystic is play. Whew. I love you all. Thank you.
Okay, Talat, you need to unmute.
Thank you. Yes, I was waiting for your cue. Thank you so much. Honored to be with all of you who are lovers of Khabir. Khabir was the perfect friend. But I want to tell a quick little story about Khabir and preface it by pointing out that Khabir spent some time in Japan at Zen monasteries. And one day I said to Khabir, I said to him, I hope I never again am ever in an auto accident. And he snapped immediately, not angrily, but immediately. He said, the same thing can never happen twice. And I was stunned by this concept, totally, until I checked out the Japanese tea ceremony and found out that that is one of the fundamental slogans of the Japanese tea ceremony, that the same thing doesn't happen twice, only ever in one moment. And that's the story I wanted to tell, among others that could be told, and inshallah may indeed be told. That for now, thank you. Hudos.
Thank you, Talat. Nur Rahman.
He's frozen.
Gotta unmute.
I've lost your picture, Nur Rahman, but you need to unmute.
Unmute here. A friend to all. Is that unmuted? Can you hear me?
You're good.
Yes.
You were unmuted and now you're muted again.
Try pushing your space bar and talking.
Thank you, Hassan. Good idea.
Nur Rahman? We can't hear you. It's his internet connection, Sean.
Okay, it looks like Tansen's trying to talk, but he's got a slow internet connection.
Before you move on to Townsend, I saw Mudita with her hand up, and now Nur Colby has her hand up.
Let's go to Mudita and then Nur Kalbi, and then if Tansen might improve his connection by then, who knows?
Yeah. Namaste to everyone. You know, Khabir, he was a champion to us all. I mean, like the best friend you ever had. And that's why we loved him so much and still love him. And, you know, I see him quite often. Even though my belief system is that he's, you know, incarnated already, but I see him a lot, not so much in a dream, but it's in some world where he's kind of wandering around with like a white tank top, muscle shirt on, even though I never saw him in that. And he's always giving me a hug and saying how much he loves me. And the last Rumi Zurs that we had before the COVID, he came to me the night before and he said, I really want you to go. I really want you to go and I want you to turn. And so I did. It was when everybody had gone and made teneres and I wasn't matchy, but I went there because Khabir had come to me and said, please go. So I did. And I was really happy that I went that evening and whirled with the others. And it's funny, each one of you have said things that I thought, oh, I might say this, you know, to the mystic rituals play. He always said that so much. You know, he didn't stand on formalities. And I think we liked that with him. And when he would take a puff, boy, he would laugh and tell so many stories and he would talk. And we always had so much fun, all of us together. And one time, the time that Malika was speaking about in India, when the Rohaniyat had their session at the Dargah of Inayat Khan, one morning, I didn't stay at La Sagrita, but I was staying at another ashram. And he said, please, tomorrow, will you go shopping with me? I really want to buy a vest. And I know that you will wheel and deal with the people at the market. So we went to Nizamuddin Ali's market and we got him his green wool vest. And he always loved telling people, oh, Mudita helped me get this green vest. And that was always very sweet of him. And he often invited me to come to New York with Khadija, go forth. She would always plan things around Rumi Zurs, and we would stay in her little one-room apartment. I mean, I think it was actually a very expensive apartment. It was across the way from the Dakota, John Lennon's place. But we would all sleep on the floor, and it would be like, you know, Khadija and Mansour and Khabir always had dibs on the hallway. I'd sleep under the dining room table. And I think Eddie Greenberg would be there sometimes. Anyway, there'd be some people there. We'd all be like head to feet. And sometimes the first night it was like, everybody was snoring. After we would whirl and be together a few days, it was like each in-breath was, and then, we were so in sync and so in tuned. And one time we did a function with Sheikh Farhat and her community, and they were always so welcoming and kind. And they always did kind of a whirling where their arms were out straight, you know. And Eddie Greenberg, there was some great musicians playing. And Eddie Greenberg one night, there was in front of the stage was a wood floor and this one light, and Eddie Greenberg was reading Rumi. And the ladies, it was only women that were whirling that night. The ladies from Sheikh Farhat's community, they had different colored dresses that Murshida Khadija had loaned them, yellow and blue and orange and red. And so the whirling hadn't really started, and I don't know, we didn't kind of know, if we were gonna whirl, even though everybody was dressed up. And Eddie was reading Rumi Under That Light. And so I kind of just went behind him and started to whirl. And then I thought, oh, the other ladies should come out. They're so beautiful. So that we kind of lined up, next to him on this wood floor, and we started to whirl. And they all kind of, like I said, whirled like this, where, the dervishes more whirled like this, that we're accustomed to. And before you know it, we were all whirling in the same way. And afterwards, Khabir, he was like the loving father. And I went up to him and pranammed him, bowed to him, and he said, "I'm so proud of you." It was like so sweet, like he was the loving father, and he was always like, "Come, where have you been? I'm glad you're back." I was like, "Well, I never left." He's like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're here at camp. Don't go away." I'm like, I've never felt like I've left. I just, I travel, I do different things. And one other thing, when I first started initiating new reads, Murshid Wali Ali said, "Go slow, go slow." I'm like, okay, I don't really want to initiate anyway. Are you sure? Do you guys know what you're, do the Murshids know what they're doing? So at this camp, this lady that I had met in Minneapolis, I had gone there, I think Zahir had invited me to come a couple of times, and we did a few retreats together. And this lady, I met her there, and she was at Ozark camp. And she was really like, "I really want you to initiate me. I really want you to," but she seemed hungry, and I didn't know her very well. And I knew I was going to be going back up to Minnesota again. I said, "Let's think about it. And maybe when I come back up, let's see how we feel." She was like, "I really want you to initiate. I really want." So I was in the lunch circle with Khabir. And I was telling him, I was like, this lady over there, she really seems hungry. She really wants initiation, but I don't really know her. And the hunger seems too hungry. He's like, "You know what? Just initiate her. The soul wants the blessing. And you just offer the blessing, you offer it from your heart. And she, the soul wants the blessing of the lineage. And you just offer that to her freely, whether you ever see her again or not. But there's the connection that the soul has to the lineage. It's not even about you. It's just her soul wanting to be connected to the lineage. And so after lunch, I went looking for her. And somebody said, "Oh, she just took initiation with Aladdin and left." And she just left camp. So that was always Khabir, was his open arm way, receive all the souls in. Be a fisherwoman, be a fisherman of souls, love all. So thank you.
So thank you. I do want to be patient with me, Nur Kalbi, because I want to give Nur Rahman another chance to get on here. I cannot highlight you unless your video is on, and you don't have to have your video on, but definitely. Oh, good, you're unmuted. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Very good, yes.
Okay, I guess I can't do video or audio, so I'll do the audio portion now. We all have this wonderful memory pool of all the magic we've shared at the Shrine at Heart Song, at the Cave Zickers. But one of the things I really enjoyed with Khabir was that joy of discovery, and especially of new art. And Khabir would, when he would stay in Kansas City, he often stayed at Ganesh's. And Ganesh often had to work in the afternoon, so I'd come by and pick him up and take him out to Indian Buffet at Korma Sutra and go to the Kemper Museum. If you don't know Kansas City, it's the Museum of Modern Art, and they always have a rotation of new shows. And discovering new art with Khabir was such a wonderful joy. And one of the last things I did with him was go to the Crystal Bridges and take his tour of Crystal Bridges. Was a wonderful experience. I with this picture I have of his, maybe I should tell the story of that in the final 5 days I was with Khabir, I stayed at the Grange in Berryville, and Jim and Brian had picked up Khabir's paintings and brought them over there, and two of them were sitting on the sofa, and I walked by him every day going in and out. And then I left, locked the place up, and 8 days later, Shakura came, and there were 4 pictures sitting on the sofa. This one of me, and another one, a young self-portrait of Khabir that were placed there by an unseen hand. So this was a miraculous final gift from Khabir. So it serves as a great screensaver. So, Ya Hazrati Khabir, Kudus Allah Sirahu. Behold the presence of Khabir. May Allah sanctify his innermost secret. Yahoo.
I'd like to say something, Sean. Oh, I forgot. Carolyn, go ahead, Carolyn. Go.
You want to go first?
Yeah, we're family. Just go ahead, Shakura, and or whoever.
Shakura? Well, I'll go if she's not ready, but if you're ready, Shakura, that's okay.
She says you go.
Okay. Well, I'm inspired by the art too, and thank you, Nur Rahman. I was thinking of sharing something about his art, and the many ways in which he expressed himself have been said by so many people, and the ways he was both humble and generous. This one is not so much unusual as typical of so many that were able to capture trees, water, and rocks in a way that to me is really cosmic as well as on earth. And that's the way he was. He was able to feel the water and the rocks and show it to us, and yet at the same time get that ethereal quality of the spirit moving through it. And I remember the watercolor workshops where he told me, don't forget to let the light shine through. And so I have another one that was more recent, and I just happened to be lucky enough to get it late at some of the last stuff that Habiba was sharing in the bazaar. So here he totally left the light behind the woods. Somebody might think that was an unfinished piece, but no, the light is totally shining. He's feeling it and sharing it. And another side of, I would say, his magical side. I mean, the rocks are solid, the water is fluid, the trees are growing, but then he has these enchanted rocks. I know you can't see these perfectly, but we'll just do the best we can. But the enchanted rocks are out there on the edge of the water, glowing with these mystical colors, and with the sky that's, fluidly behind it all. Again, cosmic. I mean, when he had his art exhibit at Unity in Columbia, I helped organize that, and he brought big version. Well, there were 2 that I know of that were enchanted rocks, and it was a large one there that sometimes you just see his art and you just are astonished. Something in you just is like, wow, and yeah, I just feel that and felt that in the way he taught about it, that it was both precious to him and precious to share that love, the tenderness for all these qualities that he would bring forth in the art to share with us. And And also to share that he had a piece of history that he was following in this line of this not very frequently used method of egg tempera, which he said, well, it's maybe partly a lost art in many places. But what they don't realize is of many of the ancient paintings have fallen apart and disintegrated that were not made of egg tempera, but the unique qualities of the egg mixed in the paint helped it survive hundreds of years. So, or maybe thousands, I don't know. But again, the mystical is blending with the practical and the quote unquote real again and again in his being, in the way he taught us, in the way he made us feel like his best friend and our best champion and our calming friend. If we worried about things that, if I talk too much about my son, he'd say, well, what about you, my dear? So so many tender memories. I know we all could go on and on, but I thank you, Shams and Shakur and everyone for doing this. Let's keep doing it.
Every year. Okay, Shakura. You are muted. While you are muted, you can unmute. And I just want to say that the book that I've been working on, I looked at it and it was like, wow, that's more about me than about Khabir. In one sense, it had to be that way because here's this murid getting to live with his murshid. But I want to invite anyone who wants to share longer stories, short stories, to email them to me, because there's half of the book is going to be other people's stories, not just my stories. Okay. Okay, Shukura.
I would like, I've been a little triggered and I've been through a lot like everybody else, but today was really important for me. But it's important for me to say and to acknowledge Nur Rahman, Shamsuddin, Jim Norton, and Hamza, who, when we were really struggling to take care of Khabir, I mean, not struggling, but some moments were really hard, but it was really hard. And then Craig and Sky swooped in and were able to take, I mean, it was like such a team effort of how we took care of him. But some of the things that happened, like Nur Rahman describing about the pictures on the couch, I mean, they're just unexplainable. And I'd like to respond to a comment about the out-of-dateness kind of ancient, Carolyn, you mentioned it, but Khabir spent an entire weekend with Sidney Bernstein, and he apprenticed her. She knows, I mean, she's going to carry on Khabir's art. She came to the Grange and Khabir came and Nur Rahman facilitated it and kept the fire going and all, but she spent 3 or 4 days here learning the egg tempera and how to make the gesso pad. So, we will have that in our lives. And I just have to I feel inspired to say, and I probably will be quiet for the rest of the time, but one of my dearest friends in the world is on the screen right now, Richard Tiffany. And I'm not a joiner of things. I didn't come to the Ozarks looking for God, or I had encountered the Dances of Universal Peace in Saratoga Springs, not far from the abode. I knew about Pir Vilayat, but I was never a person who was questioning my spiritual foundation. That was something really strong. And it's interesting, I'm so happy Richard's here tonight, but what brought me, I met Khabir for the first time as Don Kitz in Fallsville in the old cannery building that was converted into an art studio. Across the street, there was a health food store. Mose and Marin, Orion were mostly behind that. And Richard could tell me the other 2 brothers whose names were out there, I forgot, but long time ago, 1980, 81. And I met Khabir when I was at the studio painting pots. I was putting glaze on pots, and he came, and my first husband was working on painting, which was a struggle because he was a sculptor. And Khabir went back to his place and came back to the cannery building and brought me these various brushes that I was supposed to remember which was which, and I carried them back out on the next car ride out to the top of Cave Mountain. But like, that's how I knew Khabir. And then years later, when I ended up back in the Ozarks with a child, and when he got to be about 4 or 5 years old or so, I had another, I was always secure in my place, but it never occurred to me that I had this male child, and his father is an atheist, and I have no problem with that, but there was no place for this male child. At 5, he was able to say to me, "I'm never going to sit in an inside circle with you, am I?" And he was like, right. So I knew Don Kitz, and I knew that he was involved with Sufism, and some of the people were doing Dances of Universal Peace, which I never took part of it because that seemed like a couples thing. So I started going out there with my son for things like Christmas Eve, Easter. Long story short, he met Bilal at our first spring camp. And if you ever told me that I would find myself sitting with my head covered in the back of the room with all this Islamic stuff going on, I would have said, I don't think so. But so I followed my son there. People have asked me, how did you get your kid to be into Sufism? And I was like, I followed him, but it was with Khabir's guidance and love. And, he and I both came from the Northeast. He was raised as a Lutheran. I was raised as a Catholic. We got each other. He never recruited me, but he was a brother, a friend to my son. He was a godfather, an uncle, a guide. When I was here, I was really an outsider, and we were drowning in the HIV community, and Khabir used to drive 2 hours out of his way to come and listen to me speak. Or we would have these fundraisers and be cooking food to raise money, and he would drive 2 hours out of his way to, come sit and buy a meal because he supported me. And in the end, when he died, I realized that he actually trained me in the most traditional Turkish way of master-disciple relationship. But it was never about anyone being in charge. It was about being able to recognize strengths and weaknesses and, building on them and helping with them. And I'm so thankful for him. And I'm happy to say this out loud because my dearest beloved Richard is listening to me. I'm not a joiner. I've never been looking for God. but Khabir was like a different thing. And he brought me into this community with all of you that it isn't about that. We all make it together. And I'm so thankful. And Richard, thank you for listening to me. I love you.
You're welcome to unmute, Richard, if you want to share anything. I can feel all of you with these stories. I could just go on and on too. But
Halima has her hand up.
Thank you. Go ahead, Halima. We'll spotlight you. In fact, Hassan, if you want to do that, fine.
Thank you so much, Shams and Shakura, for doing this. 2 years ago, Zahir and Jabbar and I were driving down to be with Murshid Khabir, but he had already passed. Shamsuddin called and let us know, so we just, at the next intersection, we just looped around and headed back. But I have many fond memories of times very special at Heart Song. Workshops, being in the shrine. I was initiated out at the Kuan Yin area there, and stayed in his home. Times in the hot tub. Times when we'd be walking across a meadow somewhere, it might have been a camp, and he would just lean down and pick up, and I still have it, a little four-leaf clover, things like that. He just had so many sweet ways about him. I was blessed to attend a couple of cave zikkers, so those hold precious memories too. His calm peacefulness, his preparing of waffles, the many different generous, sweet ways that were his, as you all well know. And I had the honor that he stayed at my home a few times. He would come to Columbia pretty regular, art shows and things. And at the back part of the house, there was a room that really didn't have much furniture or anything in it at that time. And so we had a zikker there. I think there were like 8 of us. That was very sweet. So, and at camp, Ozark Camp, I don't think I hardly ever missed his morning class, and usually made his afternoon one too. Just sweet, precious times, as you all know. So, thank you.
Well, I don't want to call on people. Hassan, you see any other hands? I don't.
Well, I'd like to talk to that man wearing Khabir's turkey vest, sitting out there in Montauk County, calls himself Hamzuddin. I'd like to hear from Hamza.
Yeah, Hamza met Khabir before Khabir was a Sufi.
Yeah, I went down to San Antonio to visit my brother-in-law, and his roommate was Don the artist. And he gave me a book called How to Control Your Mind at that time. He also, that was probably 1972 or 3 maybe. He had the first quad system I'd ever seen, and he turned on Aphrodite's Child 666 and turned it up loud enough that you could feel it. And
I can't hear you, Hamza.
oh, I'm sorry. Is that any better? Can
Yes,
you hear
that's
me
better.
now?
Can y'all hear him?
Yeah, I hear him fine.
Yeah, he sounds real good.
Life is good. We are blessed. I had the privilege of going down the Heart Song with one of my neighbors, Salik David Holly, who was, among other things, a stonemason. And we took Khabir's old pickup truck, and down in Arkansas, they used to pick the stones out of the fields and put them in fence rows or to make round, round circles of stones just to get them out of the fields. And so we would load his old pickup truck up with stones and take them back, and And I guess the shrine is built on one center pier, and then there are 8, since it's an octagon, there are 8 outer piers. And David my neighbor knew how to lay it out, so we had the privilege of gathering the stones and being part of building the center stone, and then 4 of the 4 of the 8 outer piers, and that involves spending time and camping down there, and Khabir was always big on, before we did anything together, we needed to do the invocation. And if someone else showed up in the middle of our work to help, we all had to stop what we were doing and come back together and say another invocation. And nobody ever got hurt and things got done. So it was probably a really good thing that happened. Khabir was my teacher, my guide.
Hamza,
Yes.
how many years did you have Thanksgiving with our beloved Murshid?
I was close to 25, I think.
I was going to say like close to 40 or something.
It could be more than that.
Thanksgiving was always about you and him and how we could all hang around and facilitate it. He loved Thanksgiving with you more than anything I ever knew.
It was an honor to go down there. It was an honor to be there. And then I guess for the summer solstices, we would end up doing sweat lodges at Khabir's. And toward the end, I guess we would take the lodge, some of the lodges from camp down to Khabir's and set them up there. Because, our sister Shira has a willow sapling grove next to her house down in Lupus. And, we figured out the other day, we did sweat lodges twice a year, and it took at least 36 trees each time we did it. And that's hundreds of trees we got out of that.
Is there anything we can do to replenish those kinds of things?
They
Like what-
replenish their own, some of them.
So we should just do something else to replenish it. I mean,
well, I think it replenishes itself. That's why it's called a sapling grove.
Cool.
And it's been a couple year or so now, and so she's probably got more that are ready. She's nodding her head. Yes.
I'm saying, where's Shira in this conversation? Unmute, Shira,
Unmute.
please.
Yes, it's a thicket. It's a green ash thicket, and the trees grow so close together that they die, and so they are happy to be used to be a sweat lodge. Very, very happy. And there's wonderful stories of Khabir too. I could just tell. We all have, but I did bring him to Columbia area for 2 art workshops. One of them was at Roseanne's house. There was about 20 people, an all day long meal provided. And we come out with some beautiful paintings. And that was just regular watercolor. And then we brought him in again at Rena Ruth's house for an egg tempera workshop. And I have notes. I took notes. I still have my bag that I brought there. And so I have notes with the egg tempera. And I got to do a tour with Sydney through the Nelson Art Gallery with Khabir. And it was just like having an art teacher. And he took us to the tour of the paintings from the 1500s that were egg tempera that were still in very, very good shape. And it's the egg
And
yolk.
Sydney has been a sponge for everything he has offered her. She, right?
Also, Nur Rahman tape recorded some of those lessons that Sydney had. I mean, videoed them. So that information should be, or that should be somehow made available to people, I guess.
Well, that could be part of this new modern book that Khabir is writing about his art with all of your help. That'll be great.
Right, and like
And Shams Kitz is
archiving
going to
is-
be involved too. Yeah, go ahead.
It's not really ours to share what Sydney got to do with Khabir, you know, but we can do glimpses of it, and if she says, but there
You
is
know,
a video.
I posted that 2.5-minute video of Khabir explaining egg tempera with Sid. Does Ravenwolf have that? Didn't he post it on his site? Being heard.
Yes, I have it, but I can't retrieve it at this point. It's not enough time.
I can send it to you again and maybe repost it. I probably should have done that on the anniversary today. I think we did it last year on the first tours.
Yeah, I'll find it and repost it later this evening.
Yeah, that's a fun little video of Khabir.
I have that downloaded in my documents of Khabir. I have that online, so. How about music, or does someone have a story?
You know,
I have a request. If when we play music, I would love Azim if he played an Ilahi.
I don't think Hamza finished speaking.
I was just
Oh,
going to
right.
say,
I'm sorry.
when Mudita was saying that she was in Turkey and Khabir wanted her to go shopping, I ended up
India.
being the inheritor of this vest, this green vest that he got there. So this is the Khabir Turkish vest.
That is totally
Indian.
right.
And, and somehow I inherited this tab from Khabir too. So so I'm attired in Khabir, and
Nice to hear.
to add one little thing to what Craig had talked about with the Bismillah Rahman Rahim, to heaven and earth in the four directions.
Who's
Since
that?
Khabir has passed on,
Who?
we
John Michael?
add to that Ya Hazrate Murshid Khabir Kitz. So I say I pray to him at least half a dozen times a day, or not really to pray to him, but I acknowledge his influence in my life, I guess.
Amen. So Harriet, oh, go ahead.
I'm done. Thank you.
Harriet, were you wanting to say something?
I had a request. When I first came on at the very beginning, you were doing one of the most beautiful recordings that you had done of Khabir turning in the Zikr Hall. And I wondered if by any chance, I just saw the end of it, if you could do that again, or if you're planning on doing that.
I was planning on ending the meeting with that. And
Oh, I see. Okay.
also, that was taken by our friend from out west. What do you call himself? Madzub Dale.
Oh.
Dale.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's only 48 seconds. And if you go to YouTube and type in Khabir Kitz, that's the first thing that'll come up.
Oh, wow. Okay, wonderful.
In case, I mean, we'll probably end this, what, Shakura, after about 2 hours? We're approaching that. It's 15 minutes.
Yeah, we can be winding down for sure.
Sham,
This is,
there's
I wanted to show this picture when Nur Rahman left my house. I was in Michigan when Khabir dropped his body, and when I came home days later, this was one of those, this was on the couch as well as the portrait of Nur Rahman. I mean, it was really amazing stuff. It really kind of happened. And there's a series of these. Elena has the most recent of him, most, current. And there are 4 of them, starting from when he was 19 years old, but we have them in a collection. So Yahoo for that. Yay.
Excellent painting.
Yeah.
Great self-portrait.
It's a self-portrait, and all these are self-portraits. We have from when he was 19 and 3 or 4 different portraits until the last one was done about 3 years ago. They're all self-portraits of him that are these, but they're surprisingly similar. I mean, anyway, that'll be in the book too. But
that's the one that hung in his bedroom, correct?
I don't know but that's the one that showed up at my house on the couch. It wasn't here, and when Nur Rahman found the portrait of himself, I mean, I guess I found it. I mean, it wasn't here, and then it was here. We weren't here. Anyway, that's a whole other story.
Shams,
I'm really glad everyone was able to come out.
there's a hand raised.
The idea was to talk and tell stories, and I think we pulled it off without it turning into like a music jam fest. No offense about music jam fest, but who would like to talk that hasn't talked?
His name is Yusuf Baraka.
Yes.
He's been raising his hand. He wishes to speak.
I'm not in control, so who? Go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My name is Yusuf Barakat. Barakat is blessings, multiple blessings. I was born in the Holy Land in Palestine, in Haifa, and I became a refugee displaced from my home when I was 12 years old. And I was on a ship that landed at Ellis Island, and I live in Michigan. I happened upon you folks by accident tonight. I was supposed to be on some other Zoom, and I ended up with, I think, Sydney and Hassan, and they guided me back to be able to join you folks after I couldn't find the other one. So it's serendipity, and I'm fascinated by your stories. I just thought it would be something from a year or 2 ago, but it sounds like you've had a lifetime together. It sounds like Khabir, which Khabir means big. Allahu Akbar. Akbar is the word for Khabir, and God is great, or God is big, and that's what Khabir means. And it sounds like he came into your life many years ago, and you all are like extended family, and I'm tickled to be a part of that momentarily anyway. And I would love if there's a moment at the end, there's like, I do a ritual to the Native American 6 directions. And at the end of it, I do a small prayer to Mother Earth, which I'd love to share with you. It only takes about a minute. So if there's time at the end, I'd like to do that. And thank Hassan for guiding me back to find you guys at this point. And I'd love to hear some music from you, Hassan.
Yes. Everybody, I met Yusuf in Puerto Morales at the Bernie Heidman camp.
Welcome, Yusuf. Welcome. And Shamsuddin and Azim will put you right in to play something, I'm sure. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. I think it would be appropriate if you'd like to share the prayer right now.
Oh, I'd be honored. I would love to hear Hassan play some music as well. So maybe we could do that after I finish my prayer.
I will have to leave. I have a DHO absent healing ritual at 9, so I won't be here. So
Okay.
please continue. And
All
when I
right.
disappear, don't worry. White light.
This prayer is in sacred ground. Teach your children that the earth is our mother. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know, that all things are connected, like the lifeblood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Aho.
Aho.
Bless
Azim.
Khabir, I bless his soul. And in Arabic, we say, Allah yarhamu, may his memory be eternal.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that. Azim, can you sing that song?
I'm not sure Azim is with us.
Yeah, it looks like he's not. But Nuri Kalbi could sing it for sure. We have a song of that prayer based on that prayer, Yusuf. So we thought it would be fun to share it with you right now.
I'd love to hear it.
I can do the parts of it that I know. I recognize some of the words you said were additional parts from Chief Seattle. I'll be right with you.
Okay, in the meantime.
I'm ready. I just wanted to get my drum.
Good.
Every part of the earth is sacred to my people. We are part of the earth, and she is part of us. All things share the same breath. All things share the same breath. All things are connected. All things are connected. Every part of the earth is sacred to my people. We are part of the earth, and she is part of us. All things share the same breath. All things share the same breath. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth. 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 Oh.
Oh.
Thank you.
These are chants that we do in the Dance of Universal Peace. That's where I met Brother Hassan in Puerto Morelos. The Dance of Universal Peace, I'm sure most of you might know about it and maybe done them. But these are all wonderful chants that help us connect to each other and to the earth.
Thank you. Yeah, I think almost everybody here has danced the dances of universal peace.
Oh, see you all later. White light. Duty calls.
Thank you, Hassan.
Peace.
Peace.
Welcome, Yusuf, and I hope you'll look again. I had one last sticker I could close us out with if people are done telling stories. Does anyone have a story to say?
Maybe just that
Anna.
video.
Anna, great.
Okay, here we go, Anna. You're good.
I'll make this, I'll consolidate a lot of notes. I first met Khabir probably in 82, I guess. And the first workshop, first initiation was at Pin Oak. First workshop was at Heart Song in the Stream, where we learned Yah Wahabo. Khabir and I are both Pisces, and we shared birthdays 2 days apart. And just from my own feelings about Pisces, we kind of have an overview of everything. And that's what I feel was the most important thing about Khabir, and that everybody that's speaking about him being your best friend, it's because he has the ability to welcome and to be with each one of you. And that was his best part. I went to Heart Song one time for a workshop, and in order to bring something for the dinner, I brought a package of frozen peas to share. And he took one look at me and he said, "Peas." And we opened up the package and ate the frozen peas together. So that was our little secret thing. But the other thing that's important, in my life is that the first time we were at Pin Oak, that we were doing dances, and then he had learned the turn, and he introduced the turn, and there was a group of us, and we know who we are, who just said, "That's my practice." And that forever was my connection. My biggest connection with him was doing the turn, and being so, Khabir could be so ordinary in daily life, and then he could be so beautiful when he was turning, and so rising up and beyond the beyond when he was turning. And it's an ecstatic practice, and I'm grateful for him teaching that to me. And I came up with a thought that Khabir had the ability on each breath to blend the ordinary with the divine. And I wondered if the process of writing the book or something else, if those of us that want to perhaps could compose something that makes sense in good writing form and submit it, and we could maybe put that together. It doesn't have to be part of your book, Shamsuddin. It doesn't have to be that, but I've had some situations where people in my life have died, and there's a I think it's called legacy.com, I think, and it's connected with funeral homes. So I'll have to figure out if it's possible to do it without a funeral home, but it's a way that you can have a photograph, and then people can submit memories, and it would be like a permanent way that we could submit memories online.
The Rouhaniyat already has a site.
You're correct. That's right.
And Khabir's on it. And
that's right.
And in terms of my book, I would be happy.
Let me answer this, Shamsuddin. In terms of Shamsuddin's book, I kind of put him on the spot. One of the things we really wanted to inspire with this is for all of us to write and to tell stories. Mm-hmm. We aren't going to write one book or anything, but it's all about us, and I put the pressure on Shamsuddin all the time because he's already a writer, right? But we all need to write, and everything that we want to write about Khabir, he's calling us to do. And I say, let's do it, friends. I mean, we have this opportunity, and what a better person if you felt like that calling to write. That's what we want to do, is like share time for writing and meditating and thinking. And I love the dances, and I'm gonna, I love the music fest, but part of it is our getting comfortable with our writing and our storytelling. And
saying what so many of you have done this tonight, is said what he has meant to you and what you've grown, how you've grown through knowing him.
Yeah.
And that could make
now we could have a whole nother chapter of the times that we argued with him. I have a lot of chapters of that. but the dialogue is starting, and to come together about things other than just, I don't mean to put it down, but just music or just sicker. Time for what would be the word? It's not soft bet, but another kind of communication where we're talking Mubarak.
I want to say,
Yeah.
I want to say one more thing too about some of us knew that Khabir could spend a lot of money without having backup, and yet for him to, whatever it was that to be able to go to Turkey and to be able to go to Japan and have those experiences and share those things with you, and I'm glad to have pitched in funds to help him once in a while, but it was important for him to go and have those experiences. And for those of you that had an opportunity to go,
I
think
would
it was
have to
growing.
say, though, quite honestly, I'd like to say publicly, as someone very close to his immediate, monies that were sent to help him were never spent for his trips. There was one time when he was diagnosed with prostate cancer and he wasn't going to do any treatments, and the Shining Heart community wanted to raise money, and that might have been one questionable time when I transferred money, $2,300 into a credit card, but not $1 that was ever sent to Khabir in the name of emergency funds from the SRI or saying that we needed help with things were ever spent on his travel.
I know that
was never part of.
No, I know
never
that
part
it
of
was,
that.
I know it was more like rent and car repairs and everything else. I know.
Okay, ladies, listen.
Thank you.
I just have to say, I'd be glad to collect stories
Peace out.
and edit stories. And anyone who would like to receive a draft copy of what I've written to trigger things for you, I'd be glad to send you that. You could just send it to my email and we're good to go. We're closing down things, right, Shakura? Go ahead.
I
do-
believe so, unless there's someone who wants to talk.
I do have the video. Let me.
Requested, can we please play that short video of Khabir again that was at the beginning?
We're going to do that at the very end. We wanted to close with Zikr. Not to be-
Mudita had her hand up again.
Yeah, Mudita.
Just one quick story. One time when we were in New York and it was that Shaky Farhat time, we were, it was Murshida, Khadija and Mansour and Khabir and myself. And somebody said, oh, today is actually Rumi Zur's. Because we had done the whirling a few days prior. And somebody said, we were on the train platform, and somebody said, oh, today's Rumi Zur's. And we all started whirling, and one train was going this way.
There's
going this way, and Khabir was whirling with Murshida Khabir's dog. In his arm, he had the dog case in the arm, and he was as the trains were going like this, and we were all.
Oh my goodness!
Whirling. So anyway,
wow.
And this little gift he gave me. He always, when he went to Turkey, he always would bring me home a little gift. So I have it here with a little heart candle for Khabir. So Ya Khabir.
Ya Khabir.
Okay, okay. Shakura, I was going to say you need to unmute.
So we're going to close. This is a
very
zikr.
Turkish zikr.
This is a zikr that everyone says in Turkey all the time, everywhere, every time and place, secular or spiritual, 2 years old to 100 years old. It's just everyday greeting. And what should we say? What should we say it really means? We're just thinking
God bless Muhammad.
God bless Muhammad. And then after we close with that, I think Shamsi and I think there's a plan to say Khatum and then to visit if people want to visit.
Sounds good. Khatum is good.
Is that right? Okay.
Allah.
And before you start, I do want to give a special shout out to Marty and Rahima, because they had scheduled a shared presence class tonight.
I've seen it this time.
And Marty sent out an email this afternoon and invited the class to come here instead. So, you know, that just touched my heart.
Alhamdulillah.
Okay, take it away.
Okay. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. 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 Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim.
So were you going to offer Khatum? And then just to give a heads up, Rahima, I would love it if you would give us a final blessing, and then we'll open it up to chatting.
O thou who art the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the Lord of heaven and earth, open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly comes from within. Disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls, that we may know and understand life better. Most merciful and compassionate God, give us thy great goodness. Teach us thy loving forgiveness. Raise us above the distinctions and differences which divide. Send us the peace of thy divine spirit and unite us all in thy perfect being. Alhamdulillah.
Murshid, please, Murshida.
So since we've done Khatum and music just now, I'd like to just do two wazifas that um, Kabir was concentrating on at the end of his life. Ya Azali, Ya Abadi. And I think Anna Farishta mentioned how the Pisces had the big picture. Ya Azali and Ya Abadi have the picture of pre-eternity and post-eternity and everything in between. And so if we just say 11 times these two and think of that bigness that was Kabir. Ya Abadi, Ya Azali, 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 Ya Abadi. So this was toward the end of his life to explore this vastness.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. That's a practice I did not know he was doing, and I knew almost every practice he was doing. I'm going to start doing that practice if I get permission from my check-in. So here's Kabir turning once more time. Wow.
There's no chat to say thank you, and I just want to thank you, Shakura and Shamsuddin, for prime moving tonight, and thank you to everyone who shared their stories. And it was so precious. I planned to stay on for an hour, but I couldn't leave.
Thank you,
so
Tony.
much.
Thank you. Yes.
Everyone who's joined with us. And for those of you who didn't get to share out loud, you know, Kabir always used to remind me that those, it wasn't his, but those who know, I mean, those who say don't necessarily know, and those who know don't necessarily say. Something like that.
He did say that. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. Thank you.
White light.
Yafata.
Yafata.
I wonder who's going to end this meeting. Oh, that's my job. Oh.
Yafada.
All right, everybody. Love you. Thank you so, so much. And we are going to say